Back, he steps forward and he starts shooting me. My ears are ringing, but I come into realization that he's shooting at me.
You know that feeling when you think you finally escaped something dangerous? When you believe you're safe because you walked away. 23-year-old Shamay Pitt thought she had done everything right. She graduated high school at just 16 years old. She was building a modeling career. She was raising her 4-year-old autistic son. And earlier in 2024, when her relationship with 25-year-old Joshua Woodruff turned abusive, she did what everyone tells you to do. She left him in June. But here's the thing about leaving that nobody really prepares you for. Sometimes, leaving is just the beginning of the nightmare. Before we get into what happened to Shamay, if you're finding this story compelling, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. Drop a comment below telling me what you think. Share this video because Shamay's story needs to be heard. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Mistora Crimes and click that bell icon so you never miss a case that matters. Now back to Shamay's story, because what happened next is something that still keeps me up at night. After Shamay left Joshua in June, she thought maybe she could still check on him as a friend. You know how that goes, right? You care about someone, even when they've hurt you, even when you know they're not good for you. So when Joshua got locked up, Shamay would check on him, just to make sure he was okay. But when he got out and realized Shamay had actually moved on with her life, that's when everything changed. That's when Joshua's behavior went from abusive to absolutely terrifying. He started calling her, not just once or twice. He called her obsessively from over 50 different phone numbers. 50. Think about that level of obsession. Every time she blocked one number, he'd call from another, and another, and another. He refused to let her go. And Shamay, like so many survivors of abuse, probably felt trapped between wanting to be kind and knowing she needed to protect herself. Then came November 2nd, 2024. A Saturday that started like any other day but would end with Shamay fighting for her life in ways most of us can't even imagine. Joshua reached out to Shamay and asked if they could meet. Just to talk, he said. Nothing serious. Just a conversation. And Shamay, maybe hoping this would finally bring some closure, maybe just wanted him to stop calling from all those numbers, agreed. She drove to Snapfinger Road in DeKalb County, Georgia, picked him up, and got him into her car. Within minutes, their conversation turned violent. And I need you to understand what happened next, because it's going to sound almost impossible to survive. Joshua Woodruff pulled out an AR rifle, not a handgun, an AR rifle with an internal switch, loaded with 7.62 AAC blackout round ammunition, the kind of weapon that's designed to do maximum damage. And right there in Shamay's own car, with her behind the wheel, he opened fire. Shamay described the moment to reporters later, and her words are haunting. She said her ears were ringing, but then reality hit her. He was shooting at her. In that confined space, there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The bullets tore through her body. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3. He didn't stop. He kept firing until he had shot her 10 times. 10 gunshot wounds. Her bones shattered from the impact. Can you imagine that? Being trapped in your own car while someone you once cared about tries to kill you? Shamay later told reporters something that still gives me chills. She said, "I seen the inside of me on the outside." Let that sink in. Her injuries were so severe that she could see her own internal organs. But here's where this story takes an even darker turn. And I want you to really hear this part because it shows you the true nature of what Shamay was dealing with. Joshua didn't leave her there to die. He didn't call for help. Instead, he took over driving her car, with Shamay bleeding out in the passenger seat, and he started driving for 2 hours. He drove her around Georgia, going from DeKalb County all the way to Douglas County, about 30 miles away. And the whole time, Shamay was conscious. She was aware of everything happening to her. During those 2 hours of hell, Joshua did something that shows you exactly what was going through his mind. He picked up his phone and started making calls. But he wasn't calling 911. He wasn't calling for an ambulance. He was calling people trying to figure out where to dispose of her body. He was planning how to get rid of her while she was still alive and listening to every word. Shamay bleeding and broken, tried to save herself. She actually attempted to jump out of the car while they were on the highway, but she couldn't. All those broken bones from the gunshot wounds made it impossible for her to move the way she needed to. And every time she tried, Joshua threatened her. He kept telling her he was going to shoot her in the head. Think about the terror of that. You've already been shot 10 times. You're bleeding out. You can't escape. And the person who did this to you keeps threatening to finish the job. At some point during that drive, Joshua threw Shamay's phones out car window. He was making sure she had no way to call for help, no way to contact anyone who might save her. Shamay was completely at his mercy, and based on those phone calls he was making, it was clear he had no intention of showing her any. But Shamay, she kept fighting, even with 10 bullet wounds, even with broken bones. Even as she watched her own blood pooling around her, she kept trying to survive. She begged him. She pleaded with him in a way that I think shows just how desperately she wanted to live. She told him, "Just lay me on the grass so I can breathe. I don't want to die in this car." Can you hear the desperation in those words? She wasn't even asking him to take her to a hospital at that point. She just didn't want to die trapped in that car. She wanted to feel grass beneath her, to breathe fresh air one more time. That's how low her expectations had become after 2 hours of being driven around while bleeding to death. And something in that moment must have shifted. Maybe Joshua finally realized what he had done. Maybe he got scared about getting caught. Maybe some tiny part of his conscience woke up. Whatever the reason, he finally drove Shamay to WellStar Douglas Hospital in Douglasville, Georgia. But even then, he didn't walk her in. He didn't explain to doctors what happened. He just dropped her off at the hospital entrance, and that was it. Shamay, somehow still conscious, somehow still fighting, made it inside. The medical staff immediately recognized how critical her condition was. They counted 10 gunshot wounds and knew she needed more advanced care than they could provide. So they called for paramedics to transport her to Kennestone Hospital, where she could undergo emergency surgery. Meanwhile, Joshua tried to just walk away, like he could drop off the woman he shot 10 times and just disappear into the night. But here's where he made his mistake. The hospital security guards had seen what happened. They'd seen him drop off a woman who was clearly the victim of a violent crime. They detained him right there in the hospital. And when the Douglasville Police Department arrived, they took Joshua Woodruff into custody. At first, they charged him with hindering law enforcement. Can you believe that? After shooting someone 10 times, kidnapping them, driving them around for 2 hours while planning where to dump their body, the initial charge was basically just obstruction. But as the investigation continued, and as the full horror of what happened became clear, prosecutors upgraded those charges. Joshua Woodruff now faces charges of false imprisonment and aggravated assault. And according to reports, prosecutors are looking at adding even more charges, including additional assault and weapons charges, once all the medical and ballistic findings are complete. Right now, he's sitting in Douglas County Jail on a $10,000 bond. His attorney even withdrew a motion to reduce that bond, which means Joshua is staying right where he is while he awaits trial. But let's talk about Shamay, because her story doesn't end at that hospital. She underwent multiple surgeries. Doctors had to repair the damage from 10 gunshot wounds, fix broken bones, and address internal injuries that were so severe she had literally seen her organs outside her body. After the surgeries, after the immediate life-threatening injuries were stabilized, Shamay went home. But home doesn't mean recovered. As of now, Shamay still cannot walk. She requires constant assistance. She's going through rehabilitation and physical therapy, trying to regain the abilities that Joshua Woodruff stole from her on November 2nd. And she's doing all of this while being a mother to her 4-year-old autistic son. She's described him as her source of strength, the reason she keeps fighting through the pain and the trauma. Her family started a GoFundMe to help cover the massive medical expenses, the ongoing rehabilitation costs, therapy for the emotional trauma, and to provide care and stability for her son. They're also trying to cover legal and court costs because this case is far from over. The Southeast Atlanta community where Shamay lives has rallied around her. They organized a fundraiser on December 2nd at East Atlanta Village to help support her recovery. But here's what gets me about Shamay's response to all of this. After everything she's been through, after being shot 10 times, after being kidnapped and driven around while someone planned where to dispose of her body, after months of not being able to walk, she's speaking out publicly, not for revenge, not just to tell her story, but to warn other people. She told reporters, "If you see that red flag, run away." That's it. That's her message. Run away from those red flags.
See that red flag, run away.
And I think about all those phone calls from 50 different numbers. I think about how Joshua refused to let her go even after she left him in June. Those weren't just red flags. Those were sirens blaring. But Shamay, like so many people in abusive relationships, probably thought she could manage it. Probably thought if she was just kind enough, careful enough, it would eventually stop. So here's what I want you to think about. What makes someone capable of shooting another person 10 times? What goes through someone's mind during those 2 hours of driving around, making phone calls about disposing of a body while their victim bleeds beside them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss a video here on Mestora Crimes. Subscribe to Mestora Crimes for more stories that matter.